Okie dokes, everyone. We're going to answer this question before us. Let's give it a read. It says that we need to consider this function right here. And as you can see, we've got a restricted domain. It says sketch f of x on the axes below, label with coordinates, endpoints, and axis intercepts if they exist. All right, so let's see how we go here. So we've got a quadratic, x plus 2 plus 4. It's in turning point form. This is telling me that I'm moving 2 to the left, so it's negative 2 here. This is telling me I'm going 4 up, so I'm right here. Then, as you can see, I'm going negative 2 to negative infinity. So it's going to be backwards like that. It's also important that we recognize that, as you can see here, I've got a round bracket. So this shouldn't be a closed circle. It should be an open circle. And do you see how it says that we need to label our coordinates? That means it's negative 2, negative 4. And that's it. That's what we have to do. It's really important that you can read off a turning point form, quadratic, really easily, that you can look at the turning point, look at the domain given and be able to make the restrictions necessary to go about that. It's only worth 1 mark, so it's really expected that we can do this rather quickly and efficiently. The next thing that we need to do is find the inverse and write your answer in this notation here. So this notation is how we need to write our answer. Now, if we want to find the inverse of something, what do? Well, you swap the x's and y's around. So that means I'm going to end up with this. So as you can see, I've just swapped the x and y around, and now I'm going to rearrange this to solve it for y. So it's going to be x minus 4 is equal to y plus 2 squared. Then I'm going to square root both sides like this, which is going to leave me with y plus 2. Then I'm going to go negative 2 plus or minus the square root of x minus 4 is equal to y. And now, therefore, my inverse function is going to be equal to negative 2. Now, this is where you've got to be careful. Is it the plus or isn't the minus? You can't write both ways. It's either one or the other. So in order to determine whether or not it's going to be the plus or the minus, what we need to do is consider the domain and range of each. So I'm going to say, well, what is the domain and range of f? Well, we know what the domain of f is, don't we? If we come up here, we can easily just see that it's going to be negative 2, or negative infinity to negative 2, negative infinity to negative 2, just like that. Nothing too crazy there. Then to get the range of it, we're going to go 4 to infinity. And looking here, I can just see, why did I put negative 4 there? This should be 4. Then what we're going to do is we can figure out what the domain of the inverse is and what the range of the inverse is. And the way that we can do this is simply just by swapping that around. This goes there and that goes there. So this is going to be 4 to infinity. And this here, if I do that a bit nicer, 4 to infinity. And this one here will be negative infinity to negative 2. So that means my domain is 4 to infinity, and my range of the inverse is negative infinity to negative 2. Now, to determine whether or not it's plus or minus, what you need to look at is the range of this thing. As you can see, is negative infinity to negative 2. So that means it's going to be the bottom half of this square root graph. And this is where it's useful to be able to just sketch what they're asking of us to do here. So we've got this. As you can see, it's a square root graph. It's 4 to the right. So we're going 4 to the right. And we're going 2 down. So we're right here. And as you know, a square root graph looks like this. It goes up and it goes down. But if I know that my range is from negative infinity to negative 2, that means it's negative infinity to negative 2. It's not this upper part. It's just the down part. It's just that. Also important to recognize that this should be an open circle. And let's put this as 4, negative 2 right there. As you can see, the turning point values just simply swap around, don't they? Nothing too crazy there. All right, now we need to make sure that we write our answer in the proper notation as wanted. So that means I'm going to get my inverse function is going to be, now what is my domain? It's going to be 4 to infinity. Then it's all real numbers for my codomain. Remember, your codomain is always just all real numbers. Then it's going to be negative 2 minus the square root of x minus 4. And just like that, we've got our answer. So hopefully you feel somewhat comfortable with doing that. So nothing too outrageously difficult there, but just making sure that you're comfortable with all those key processes of swapping the x and y, solving for y, and then determining what the domain and range of the inverse is in order to figure out whether or not you are to consider the plus or minus. So just really important that you can go through all those steps there, which is quite a few steps, and just comfortable with it. Now, part C here, it says on the same set of axes in part A, sketch the inverse, label with coordinates, endpoints, axis intercepts, and points of intersection if they exist. So if we come up here, you can see that we've already done this. This is what our inverse function is going to look like, 4 to -2. So just like that, that's what it's going to look like. And we're done. That's everything the question asked of us. We've given everything a sketch. We've done it all perfectly. Hopefully you are comfortable with this process, and I'll see you in the next one.